As you see on Highway 50, we've had some youth go out and paint some of these public light transfer, whatever you call them, that run the signal lights. I like to see that through our neighborhoods. Let's get these kids out there and paint these dumpsters and make them attractive and maintain them. And I think that would be a great contest. You know, we did this bear contest a few years ago. That was fantastic. So take that kind of creativity, whether it's wild animals on the dumpster, whether it's scenes of Talac on the dumpster, or sporting events or bike events. I think there's a great opportunity there, and it would be free. Thank you.
Elizabeth Allen. I agree with Tom. I think that the visual aspect of taking away from the blind eye that it's actually a dumpster and it looks like a, you know, we have a couple on Glenwood with the bike, and then close to Ski Run. I think there's one over in the Keys that looks really nice. I'm going to answer more of the question regarding residential and commercial blight. I think that commercial property owners need to realize that it's not the boom that it was 4 years ago, and the rents that they're asking are unreasonable. New businesses it's a risk to open. We have 17% unemployment rate, and we have a lot of talented people within our community. They're passionate about their talents, and if they could open a storefront location and put their talent into a store with a reasonable lease and low risk, I think that we would have a more vibrant appearance for our community, and visitors would see that. Signing into a commercial lease is huge because it's basically signing your life over. And some of the rents are so huge right now that people can't afford them. They don't want to have any part of it. And like, I'm in a lease that's cohesive to both parties, and it's unbelievable how relaxing it is compared to Ski Run, where I paid, 3 times the price for an old facility that I pay now for a brand new, fully developed one. I think I'm so lucky. And I think that if more people can experience the things that I've experienced with a lease cohesive to both parties, I feel our business growth would be more. Regarding residential, I feel that we do have a Clean Tahoe program that does a really good job about going out and picking up illegally dumped stuff. If it wasn't for them, I feel like, there would be a lot more mattresses. I drive down sometimes and there's just a mattress on Glenwood, and you're like, whoa. Or a washer and dryer, and you're just like, who did that? And
that was mine.
I think that's a disgrace to our community to think a resident who lives here would do that. So with those programs, I feel like we can move forward. Thank you.
Doug Chahovich. I'm not for more regulations, but I am for better communication. And if some areas seem degraded and there's unsightly, this is probably maybe where the city does have to be able to contact the absentee homeowners or property owners to let them know that we have certain standards we want to follow to clean up the areas. And it goes for any community, whether it's down the state line or down towards the line. But that just comes down to lack of communication, I think, is what it is. And people just have to be made aware of when their properties are not being taken care of, whether it's by renters or by just because they are absent. Thanks.
Do as I say, not as I do. It doesn't work for my kids, and you know what? It doesn't work at the city either. If we want property owners to clean up their own properties, maintain their own properties, we have to do the same with the city's assets. We have to pave our roads. We have to fix the crumbling curbs and the degrading storm drains. And many areas don't even have curbs or storm drains, so we need to look at that. If you want property owner to improve their property, there's not a whole lot of motivation when the infrastructure right outside that door is degraded. So, you're not going to put new asphalt or new paver stones in your driveway when there's a big pothole at the end of your driveway. So it's got to be a collaboration. It's got to be on both sides, and we've got to lead by example. We got to say, this is our city, and this is what we want to look like. So this is what we're going to do, and others will fall in line. We show them we're going to clean up, then they will take the responsibility for their properties, and they'll begin to clean up their properties. The other issue is supply and demand. We have overcapacity in lodging units and in properties. So what do? We build more timeshares. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's less incentive for a property owner now to improve their property because now they're competing with a brand new property on the other end of town. So It's got to be a big picture thing. When we make these decisions, we have to look at the whole picture. It looks great at this end of town, but now there's no incentive for these property owners with declining property values to invest money into their property. They're upside down in their mortgage. Why would they want to invest more money? We've got to look at the supply and the demand. We've got to put the money into our infrastructure, into our city, and let the property owners improve their properties. And we need to work on the franchise agreement with South Tahoe Refuse, because they're taking advantage. And we need to have more enforcement of what we're going to require of South Tahoe Refuse. And we need to look at that agreement that they have with the city. They have a monopoly. We have nowhere else to take garbage. So we need to look at some of those things, some of the practices that are preventing the garbage to getting into the landfill or to wherever it needs to go to be recycled. Recycling bins, they should be everywhere.
And on that positive note, the city has received a grant recently to erect 15 brand new dumpster enclosures. And that's great. Let's continue that. There is a big B in Blight and there is a little B in Blight. We have mandatory trash for residentials, and being a frontline customer service person, I heard many complaints from the vacation home rentals. Why do I have to pay for trash? I don't use it, I take it home. I personally drive down the street and see it laying on all over the yard that they're at. We have programs. We have Clean Tahoe. It's an exceptional program. I've used them many times, and I've called them when I've seen trash. I would be hesitant to do mandatory business because I don't really like the government getting their fingers into everything. I think if you take pride in your property, maybe your neighbor will take pride in their property as well.
The big B, little b. I'm going to address little b because the big B is a whole nother question. But you're talking about basically how do we keep properties clean. And I have a couple of suggestions. One is it possible to get a grant through South Tahoe Refuse that vacation rental properties can get bare boxes? And the idea being that then in incremental trash bills, they can start paying off that particular that bare box, because they are expensive, and I do get that it's not easy to install. However, I think that it's important. I think that actually one of the best suggestions was made today by Mrs. Jones, which is why don't we see whether we can have Sunday trash pickup to vacation rentals? Is that possible? Clean Tahoe is an amazing program. It also is starting to lack funding. What do we need to do to keep this program operative? We have a day where we clean up all the stream beds and the shore zones. Is it possible to have a day where we actually clean up the city, say twice a year, spring and fall, where we go out and we have a Clean the City Day, where we have reduced dump fees, maybe even free fees. The e-waste programs that we have right now are fantastic. How do we keep them? How do we increase them? Finally, with this whole thing with the TRPA, trying to get enclosures is critical, particularly for big businesses. How do we get those managed and create more of them?
Kicked me again. Kicked me last night.
You keep sitting next to me. So what's going on here, huh? Well, you know, we all agree on the basics here. We don't want to have trash piling up, and we can't have a world-class resort if we don't have world-class services. And services are the responsibility of the city. And negotiating contracts that take into consideration the problems that we've had in the past, that is a responsibility of the city. And it falls squarely on the city to listen to the residents, identify problems in existing contracts with vendors, and fix those problems. We can't have a world-class city, a world-class resort, without world-class services. And I'm sorry, but we don't have those services right now.
Joy Curry. I believe that all vacation rentals and all new construction should be required to have trash bear-proof containers. And they should be paid for by the homeowner, as they are making a profit off of renting their homes. I also think that all trash containers should be enclosed. I mean, there's nothing worse than driving down the street or driving by a business and you see a trash container that is overflowing and it's just plain ugly. So I don't think painting them is the answer. I think that we need to have an ordinance where all trash containers must be enclosed. In relationship to blight, you know, it's a double-edged sword. We say to reduce blight we need to increase our prosperity, and then the other side, if we have blight, then how does that prosperity arrive? With the new redevelopment project 2, I am hopeful, and with the adoption of the Tahoe Valley Community Plan, which is essential to the Y area so that we can move forward with new construction, is that we will have funds available through that redevelopment area to give businesses or assist businesses with improving their outside appearances, you know, providing sidewalks in front of their businesses and street lights, which would be supplied by the redevelopment area. So it's a double-edged sword wherever we go. The city of South Lake Tahoe needs to beautify itself. That is one of the complaints when people visit, is they leave and they're not having a wonderful experience because it doesn't look beautiful. There are potholes, there are no street lights. So I think that we as a community need to step up and utilize the tools in our toolbox. And one of them at the Y is completing the Tahoe Valley Community Plan and utilizing redevelopment area 2.
Thank you for all of your thoughtful answers to the questions that were prepared in advance, and I think you all got my email in advance. And now we come to a unique part, which is that each one of you will be given the opportunity to ask one question of one other candidate. A brief question and the same 2-minute or so response. And does everybody understand the rules? And hopefully this will bring up some things that maybe people haven't thought about. So Doug, would you be willing to be the...
Sure.
Okay. You notice you got a glass of water first. This is going to be a long question.
I'll make it simple. Doug Chanovich. You know, over the past few months, I'm always blown away by the amount of time wasted in the city council, whether there was the arguing about one city council member getting paid for some little job that, you know, that's his business, and then another one when they brought in the medical marijuana. I mean, the time that's been wasted on that. First off, I'm trying to think, why did they even allow this to begin with in this small town? Because I personally don't want it in my neighborhood. Do I have anything against medical marijuana? No, I think it's a great medicine for those who really need it. Unfortunately, it's abused. It's just like anybody said, you go down here to one of the little collectives and you'll see. I've had kids that I've been aware of, renters that have destroyed properties, going at 2 in the afternoon, they're watching TV, and because they're so stoned they can't do anything else. So my question, Steve, is just curious. What percentage, Steve, because you guys that know,